The Awakening of Atlantis. The ocean has always whispered to those who listen closely. Long before history began keeping records, before empires rose and fell upon the surface of the earth, there was a light beneath the waves, a city that breathed in silence, a civilization that time forgot, yet memory still remembers. Atlantis. They say it wasn't built, it was grown. Stone shaped itself in harmony with nature. Mountains of coral and marble twisted together, forming towers that caught the light of two suns, the sun above and the one that burned from within the heart of the earth. The people of Atlantis were unlike any who came after. Their knowledge was not written in books, but woven into sound, light, and memory. They spoke in tones that could move water, and their thoughts traveled on currents like gentle tides. To live among them was to live inside a song, a harmony between body, mind, and sea. Every morning, the light filtered through crystal domes, painting golden ripples across their city. The air shimmered softly, alive with the hum of hidden energy. They called it Aurelis, the living breath of the planet, the pulse that connected every being to the soul of the ocean. To be born in Atlantis was to understand balance. They did not conquer the world around them. They listened to it. Their cities were not built against nature, but with it. Every stone, every shimmer of glass, was placed according to the rhythm of the tides and the movement of the stars. At the center of the city stood the crystal spire, a column of pure energy that reached from the ocean floor to the surface far above. It was said that this spire contained the knowledge of all things, the map of the heavens, the pattern of the earth's heartbeats, and the memory of every soul that had ever lived. The Atlanteans gathered around it not to worship, but to listen. In its glow, they heard whispers of the past and visions of what was yet to come. To them, time was not a straight line. It was a circle, a tide that always returned. And so their civilization thrived. Peacefully, gracefully, for thousands of years. They believed they had master harmony between nature and technology, between thought and creation. But beneath the beauty, a quiet restlessness began to stir. The ocean remembers everything, and even in paradise, seeds of imbalance can take root. Some among them began to ask questions that even the crystal could not answer. What lies beyond the sea? Beyond the stars? Could the same power that sustains life also create gods? Curiosity turned to ambition. Ambition turned to pride. And pride, even in Atlantis, had a sound like thunder before the storm. The nights began to change. Where once the city glowed in serene light, shadows now flickered along the domes. The crystal hummed louder, its pulse irregular, as if the earth itself was trying to warn them. The wise remembered the old prophecy, that Atlantis would fall not by war or hunger, but by forgetting who they were, by breaking the harmony that bound them to the sea. And yet, even as the tides grew restless, the Atlanteans continued their song. They danced, created, and dreamed, believing themselves eternal. The city of light and shadows. The days in Atlantis unfolded like waves, slow, bright, eternal. To live, there was to live within light itself. The sky above shimmered with a faint golden mist, and the sea below reflected it like glass, so that horizon and ocean were one. Every dawn, the city awoke to a soft chime, a resonance that moved through the crystals woven into its foundation. It was said the chime was not man-made. It was the voice of the planet greeting its children. From the highest towers, you could see far across the silver waters, rings of islands surrounding the central city, each connected by luminous bridges that glowed like veins of moonlight. Ships shaped like shells drifted between them, moving without wind or sail, guided by the gentle pull of the Earth's magnetic breath. The Atlanteans had learned the art of movement without harm. Every current of energy was recycled, every sound absorbed and softened by the architecture. There was no smoke, no fire, no clash of metal, only the steady rhythm of life and balance. They called their home the City of Light, for every stone, every crystal, every drop of water, reflected and returned the brightness of the world. But light, no matter how pure, always casts a shadow. Beneath the beauty of Atlantis, beneath its laughter and song, a quiet shift had begun. The great resonance, the secret project of the inner circle, had changed something deep within the sea. In the hidden chambers below the spire, crystals now hummed with a sound too strong for the human heart. They pulsed faster, brighter, deeper, feeding off the energy of the ocean's core. The elders warned that the tone was wrong, that it did not blend with the natural harmony of the world. But few still listened. The younger generations saw it differently. To them, the resonance was proof of greatness, a doorway to immortality. They dreamed of rising beyond the water, building new cities above the waves, claiming the surface world that their ancestors had left behind. In the Gardens of Light, scholars debated under crystal domes. Was Atlantis meant to remain hidden beneath the sea forever? Or had they evolved enough to ascend? Philosophers spoke of destiny. Scientists spoke of control. And in the silence between their words, the sea trembled. As time passed, the changes became visible. The currents that once moved with precision now twisted unpredictably. Plants glowed too brightly, their roots overheated by unseen force. The great whales, sacred to the Atlanteans, began to sing in tones of confusion, their migration paths lost. Some believed it was a natural cycle. Others whispered that Atlantis had angered the Mother of Deep. Still, the people continued to celebrate. Festivals of light filled the streets. Lanterns floated upward in spirals of gold. Children laughed as they chased luminous fish through clear canals. If the end was coming, no one wanted to see it. For the first time, pride became louder than harmony. Art turned to monument, music to noise. The Atlanteans began building taller towers, stretching the limits of their technology, reaching upward as though trying to escape the ocean's embrace. At the heart of the city, the crystal spire now shone brighter than the sun. Its glow reached the surface, piercing the calm waves like a beacon. Travelers far across the world, sailors from forgotten lands, told stories of a light beneath the ocean, a second dawn that rose from below. But within the spire, things were no longer peaceful. The energy that once sang now roared, and the scholars who tended it felt the vibration inside their bones. Some grew ill, others could not sleep. Dreams filled with visions of storms and falling stars haunted them. A few wise ones retreated into silence, journeying into the deep caverns to speak with the ancient crystals, those untouched by human hands. There they heard the truth. The balance had been broken. The planet's pulse was accelerating. The Orelise was no longer in harmony with life. It was beginning to consume it. They returned to warn the council. But the council was divided. Half believed the warnings. The others saw only progress. And so, disagreement fractured what had once been one. From that fracture grew the first shadow of Atlantis. A darkness not of night, but of thought. One side sought to preserve the old ways, to restore harmony and humility. The other sought to ascend, to harness the full power of the Orelise and conquer time itself. In the lower districts, where the ocean currents ran strongest, the people began to feel it too. The hum of the city deepened into a constant vibration. Plants withered overnight. Small tremors rippled through the crystal streets. Yet when dawn came, the sun's reflection still danced across the domes, and everything looked perfect again. Atlantis had become two cities, one above, filled with light and ambition, and one below, filled with silence and fear. The city of light and the city of shadows, both living in the same space, both pretending the other did not exist. But the ocean saw everything, and the ocean remembers. At night, the waters around Atlantis began to glow faintly red, as if the sea itself was warning them. Fishermen refused to go beyond the outer rings. They said the water burned their skin. Strange lights appeared in the trenches. Not reflections, but living things, Ancient forces awakened by the imbalance. Still, the inner circle continued their experiments. They believed they could fix it. That one more adjustment, one more calculation, would restore control. But the energy had already taken on a will of its own. It began to call to them in their dreams. Voices made of music and memory, promising infinite knowledge. Infinite Kreisischen. If only they would open the final gate. One by one, the brightest minds of Atlantis surrendered to the call. They believed they were hearing the universe itself. But what they truly heard was the echo of their own desire. The ocean grew restless. Storms began forming above the surface, lightning striking in patterns never seen before. Animals fled the reefs. The whales stopped singing altogether. The harmony of the world was unraveling. Thet be set, note by note. Yet within the spire, the crystals continued to hum, their lights steady and beautiful, a siren's glow for those who refused to look beyond the surface. For centuries, Atlantis had lived by one law. That balance was life. Now, balance was being replaced by control. The Atlanteans had forgotten that they were guests of the ocean, not its masters. The great library began to lose its voice. Crystals cracked under the strain of too much stored energy. Whole songs of history were lost in a single night. Memories erased like foam on the tide. And still, the council debated. The young argued that to stop now would mean decline, that Atlantis was destined to rise above the sea and rule the surface world. The old begged them to remember who they were. Their words fell into silence. No one knew that the choice had already been made. Not by council, not by scientists, but by the ocean itself. The mother of deep had waited long enough. She had watched her children build a city of light, and forget the darkness from which light was born. Now, she began to move. The currents grew colder. The tides reversed for the first time in memory. The crystal foundations trembled softly. A whisper that became a heartbeat that became a warning. And through it all, Atlantis still shone. Its towers glittered. Its songs echoed. Its people dreamed. They did not see the storm forming beyond the horizon. They did not hear the ancient ocean singing its last lullaby. Echoes of the deep. The ocean has a voice that never dies. It speaks in waves and whispers, in silence and storm. And when it is no longer heard, it begins to sing louder, not to be cruel, but to remind the world of balance forgotten. Beneath the shining towers of Atlantis, that voice was awakening. It began as a tremor, a soft vibration that moved through the coral foundations, barely noticeable against the hum of the city. But as the days passed, the tremor grew stronger, deeper, rising through walls of crystal, and echoing within the hearts of those who could still feel. At first, the Atlanteans called it the deep resonance. They believed it was a new discovery, a gift from the earth, an evolution of their power. The inner circle spoke proudly of it, declaring that the city was on the verge of transcendence. But the elders knew better. They had heard that sound before, in the oldest songs of creation, in the first memories recorded by the ocean. It was the same tone that marked the birth of worlds. In their end, whispers spread quietly through the lower levels of the city. Healers and crystal keepers spoke of sudden illness, strange fatigue, fever that no medicine could ease. Plants began to wither, their roots turning black where they touched the energy veins. The luminous fish that had once glowed blue and gold now shimmered with sickly red light. And then came the dreams. Soft at first, visions of swirling water, of shifting stars, of towers bending like reeds in a current. But soon, the dreams deepened into voices. The ocean was speaking, and it was speaking through everyone. Some woke in tears, feeling an emotion they couldn't name, a sadness too vast to belong to one person. Others felt peace, as though the sea was calling them home. The High Council gathered again beneath the spire. Half spoke of danger, half of destiny. They could not agree whether the sound from the depths was a warning or an awakening. Above them, storms began to form. Massive, spiraling tempests that darkened the surface. The sunlight that once filtered gently through the waves was now scattered by rolling clouds. The ocean dimmed, the city's glow flickered, and the people grew uneasy. The crystal engineers worked day and night, adjusting frequencies, trying to calm the pulse of the spire. But each attempt only seemed to make the energy stronger. It was as if the Orelise, their sacred source, was no longer listening to them. It had become something wild, something alive. The oldest among the people began to leave the city. They returned to the outer islands, to the simple stone shrines of the ancestors. They prayed not for safety, but for forgiveness. They lit lamps of sea glass and placed them upon the waves. From afar, the lamps looked like stars fallen to the sea, a silent offering to the Mother of Deep. And in that silence, something extraordinary happened. The ocean answered. The waves grew still. The tremors paused. And for one brief moment, Atlantis seemed to breathe again in harmony. Those who listened closely said they heard a voice. Soft, sorrowful, ancient. It spoke not in words, but in feeling. A message that entered every heart at once. Remember who you are. But few heard it. The inner circle had already begun their final experiment. The ascension wave. It was meant to lift the city closer to the surface, to merge the sea and sky, to bring Atlantis into a new age of being. The preparation was vast. Every crystal was tuned, every tower aligned to the stars. The people gathered in the central square, watching the spire pulse with rising light. Some wept with joy, others with fear. As the wave began, a deep sound filled the water, a vibration so powerful it shook the ocean floor. The light from the spire rose like a pillar through the sea, splitting it in two, turning the world above into a mirror of gold. For a heartbeat, Atlantis glowed brighter than the sun. Then the sound changed. What had begun as harmony shifted into discord. The pulse of the spire quickened. The crystals screamed, and the light that had once healed began to burn. Streets cracked, towers bent. The perfect symmetry of the city began to ripple like heat on water. People fell to their knees, covering their ears as the resonance tore through them. It was as if the sea itself was crying out in pain. The elders rushed to the spire, trying to shut down the core. But the energy was no longer theirs to command. The Orelise had become pure will, the will of the ocean, the will of balance returning. From the deepest trench, a sound rose, low, mournful, endless. It was the echo of the Mother of Deep, the voice that had sung the world into being. And now, she was singing again. The sea turned dark. Waves rolled upward like mountains. Lightning cracked across the sky. The city's lights flickered wildly, then dimmed. But not all was fear. Some, standing at the edge of the collapse, felt something else, a calm acceptance, as if witnessing not destruction, but transformation. The priests and healers gathered at the Temple of Water. Their hands joined in silence. They knew the truth. Atlantis had reached too high, forgotten too much. This was not punishment. It was the circle closing, the tide returning home. They sang softly, their voices trembling through the water, a final hymn to the ocean that had cradled them since the beginning. And the sea listened. As the first great wave rose above the city, it carried their song into the deep. The towers shuddered, the crystals shattered, and yet the music did not end. It became part of the current, woven into the flow of time. And though the city began to sink, its light did not fade completely. It lingered beneath the waves, a soft glow visible only in moments of stillness, a memory of what once was and what might be again. When the storm passed, the surface of the sea was calm. No sign of towers, no trace of bridges, only silence and the endless rhythm of the tide. But deep below, beyond the reach of sunlight, the ocean still hummed, not with destruction, but with remembrance. Atlantis had not vanished. It had returned to where it came from, to the song of the deep. And so the legend began, whispered by the waves, carried by the wind, retold by sailors who swore they saw lights below the water. On quiet nights when the sea was perfectly still, perhaps they were right. Perhaps the city still breathes beneath us, its people living in a rhythm beyond our understanding, waiting for a world ready to listen again. For the ocean never forgets, and somewhere, in the space between dreams and memory, Atlantis still sings. The silence after the storm. When the sea finally calmed, it was as if time itself exhaled. The waves no longer roared. They breathed, softly, gently, like the ocean was whispering a lullaby to the ruins below. For a long while, there was nothing but quiet. No movement, no light. Only the deep, endless hush that follows endings. But endings are never truly the end. They're the pause between heartbeats. The silence before the next song begins. Far beneath the surface, the remains of Atlantis rested. Columns of coral wrapped around shattered spires. Gardens once bright with color were now veiled in drifting sand. But through the stillness, faint glimmers of light still pulsed. Soft, rhythmic, alive. The heart of the city had not died. It had simply gone to sleep. Above, the world began to change. The ocean tides shifted, reshaping coastlines. New islands rose from the depths, born from the same earth that had once held Atlantis. And though the people of that lost city were gone, their memory was not. It moved through the water like breath, a vibration too subtle for most to sense, but enough to touch those who still listened. Dreamers, seekers, wanderers of the sea. In their quiet moments, they would feel it, a pull toward the horizon, a voice beneath the waves calling their name. The first sailors told stories of strange lights that glowed under the ocean. Fishermen spoke of melodies heard through the mist, songs that made the heart ache with beauty and loss. Some said the lights were spirits. Others said they were reflections of a forgotten sun. But those who listened with their hearts knew it was something else, a memory still alive. Centuries passed. Empires rose and fell. New tongues were spoken. New maps were drawn. And yet, in every culture that touched the sea, there were stories, always stories, of a golden land beneath the waves, a place where wisdom was pure, and the soul of the world still glowed. The Greeks called it Atlantis. The Egyptians spoke of a city that vanished beneath the Nile. In the islands of the West, elders told tales of the bright ones, who came from the ocean and taught the first builders how to shape stone. Different names, different voices, but the same dream carried through time. Perhaps it was not memory they inherited, but resonance, a faint echo still moving through the water, finding new minds to awaken. For energy cannot die, it transforms. And the energy of Atlantis was unlike any other. Those who were sensitive to the unseen felt it in their sleep. They dreamed of deep blue light, of towers rising from a sea, of languages they somehow understood. And when they awoke, they carried fragments of those dreams into the world. Some built temples, some wrote myths, some simply stared at the ocean, feeling that strange, endless longing. There are moments, even now, when the earth itself seems to remember, when storms roll across the sea with sudden fury, when glowing patterns appear in the water at night, when whales sing songs that seem older than time. Perhaps those are not coincidences. Perhaps they are memories resurfacing, the planet whispering its ancient truth. Because what was Atlantis truly? Not just a city, not just a civilization, but an idea, a harmony between creation and consciousness. It was a place where thought shaped reality, where energy and emotion were the same language. And though the city sank, the idea survived. Every discovery that pushes humanity forward, every act of creation born from love or curiosity, it carries a trace of that same light. Atlantis was never meant to be a legend. It was meant to be a lesson, to remember balance, to create without greed, to see the divine in the natural world. The ocean still guards that memory. Its depths are not empty. They are archives, holding the songs, the voices, the dreams of all that has ever been. If you listen closely, you can still hear it. A hum that seems to come from nowhere, a vibration that moves through your chest when you stand by the sea. It's the same resonance that once filled the crystal halls of Atlantis. It never left. It only waits for hearts quiet enough to hear it again. And perhaps that's why so many are drawn to the water. Why standing on a shore feels like remembering something you never learned. The soul knows. The body remembers. The sea is the oldest teacher of all. If you could dive deep enough, beyond the sunlit surface, past the drifting fish and coral valleys, through the layers of silence and time, you would find it. Not a ruin, not a grave, but a pulse. A city still dreaming beneath the waves. And if you close your eyes, you might see the lights again, gold and blue, swirling softly, forming shapes that look almost human, voices that sound almost familiar. They're not ghosts. They are memories of who we were, before we forgot. Atlantis is not gone. It is within everything that remembers beauty, within every act of harmony, within every dream of a better world. The sea does not destroy. It transforms. And what it once took, it will someday return. The return of the light. Night and centuries are the same to the sea. Both are long breaths, drawn and released. While the world above changed its language, its borders, its dreams, the ocean kept one rhythm, a pulse hidden under every tide. And one quiet morning, the earth began to listen again. The first to notice were not kings or scholars, but wanderers, people who sat at the edge of the water because something in them ached for silence. They felt it before they understood it, a softness in the air, a shimmer behind the sound of waves, the sense that something vast was stirring far below. They began to dream of patterns, spirals of light, floating cities, hands tracing energy through water. They awoke with salt on their skin, as if the ocean itself had touched them. Some painted what they saw. Some wrote music that no one else could explain. Some simply stood before the sea, tears sliding down without sadness. Because deep within their memory, Atlantis was calling them home. The call spread quietly, like the tide creeping across sand. It whispered to scientists searching the floor of the Atlantic. It hummed in the hearts of poets who wrote about forgotten worlds. It sang through explorers diving among coral ruins, each stone seeming to glow beneath their lights. A few began to record the sounds, low tones that instruments could not trace to any creature. They called them the bloop, the hum, the song of the trench. But none of their machines could measure what it truly was. The ocean remembering its own voice. Others looked skyward. They found energy patterns repeating those once carved into Atlantean temples, geometry that mirrored galaxies. Somewhere between the depths and the stars, Atlantis had left a code, a reminder that the universe repeats beauty. Meanwhile, on quiet nights along lonely coasts, people began to feel peace again, a calm that did not come from the world but from within, as if the same light that once powered the crystal spires was awakening inside every living thing. Because the secret of Atlantis was never technology. It was consciousness, the understanding that thought, emotion, and energy are the same current, and that when the current is pure, creation and compassion are one. Now, in the noise of modern life, that ancient current is flowing back. Every act of kindness, every spark of creativity, every discovery made not for profit, but for wonder, it carries the frequency of Atlantis. Listen to the young who look at the stars and feel they remember them. Watch the artists who paint light as if it breathes. Notice the scientists who speak of vibration, resonance, energy. They are not inventing new truths. They are remembering old ones. Somewhere deep below, the sea answers. In the darkest trenches, faint lights move in circles, pulsing in patterns almost like language. Whales alter their songs to match them, and the currents shift ever so slightly north. It is as if the ocean is aligning itself again, reconnecting invisible threads long broken. Perhaps the Orelise, the heart crystal of Atlantis, still glows there, its power softened by time, its rhythm merging with the heartbeat of the planet. It waits, not for a savior, but for resonance, for humanity to hum the same note once more. And you listening now are part of that resonance. The air that enters your lungs was once part of the ocean. The salt in your blood is the same salt that carried the Atlanteans' tears. You are not separate from the sea. You are its memory walking on land. So when you stand beside the water, when the horizon fades into mist and the wind smells of rain, close your eyes. You will feel it, that gentle hum just behind your heartbeat. That is Atlantis returning through you. It does not need to rise from the waves. It rises through remembrance. Every time someone chooses peace over power, compassion over conquest, balance over greed, the light of Atlantis shines again. Perhaps one day, when the world is quiet enough, the ocean will part its veil and show the truth. Divers will descend into calm blue water and see not ruins but garden structures alive, glowing softly, the last echo of a civilization that never truly left. And those who enter will not find treasure or thrones, but reflections of themselves, reminders that the divine was always within. For that is the final gift of Atlantis, to teach that paradise is not a place, but a state of being. When humanity remembers harmony, the lost city will rise, not from the sea, but from a human heart. So sleep now, traveler of time. Let the sound of the waves carry you. Let the light of Atlantis move through your dreams. For in the quiet between breaths, in the shimmer behind your eyelids, the city waits, golden, eternal, alive. And when morning comes, and you open your eyes to a world reborn in light, remember, you have never been separate. You have always been part of the song. Atlantis is not lost. It is waking through you. The dream of the new age. The ocean never truly forgets. It only waits for the right tide. And as centuries rolled into millennia, a new rhythm began to rise. Not from the depths this time, but from the surface. Humanity had begun to remember. At first it came as a whisper, so faint that only dreamers could hear it. Artists woke with visions they could not explain. Inventors built machines inspired by patterns seen in sleep. Children drew spirals, suns, and waves that matched the carvings once etched on Atlantean stone. The same geometry returned, not copied but reborn. The world was shifting. Science began to speak the language of energy again. What once was called magic in Atlantis, vibration, frequency, intention, re-emerged as physics, as resonance, as the study of light. Every discovery was a door reopening. Those who listened inwardly felt it most. Meditation, intuition, healing, all grew from seeds buried long ago. In Atlantis, thought and emotion were tools of creation. In this new age, people began to sense that truth again. They called it mindfulness, vibration, manifestation, different names for the same remembering. Across the planet, lights of awareness began to spark. One heart here, another there, until the whole world shimmered faintly like a net of awakening. It was as though the ocean's own neural map was coming alive through human consciousness. In cities where the noise never stopped, a few souls began to feel something behind the chaos, a silent rhythm aligning everything. They described it as a hum, a wave, a pulse in the air. The same tone that once moved through the crystal spires of Atlantis was now resonating in the circuitry of modern life. Technology, once a force of separation, began to mirror connection. Every signal crossing the globe, every invisible current carrying voice, thought, and image, echoed the ancient dream of oneness. Atlantis had built bridges of light between minds. Humanity was doing it again, this time through fiber, data, and sound. The difference lay in the heart. Would the new world remember balance? Would it use its power to connect rather than to control? Far from the cities, near the edges of wilderness and sea, new seekers gathered. They felt that humanity stood at the same threshold Atlantis once faced. The choice was not destruction or salvation, but remembrance or forgetting. They spoke of energy lines crossing the earth, of ancient frequencies reawakening, of crystals humming beneath mountains. Some dismissed them as dreamers, but nature seemed to answer them. Auroras brightened. Storms grew gentler after their gatherings. Whales changed their migration paths, as if guided by unseen currents. It was as though the planet recognized the song being sung again. In the dreams of many, Atlantis began to return, not as ruins, but as visions of light. Cities suspended between water and sky. Voices whispering, "We're still here." Some awoke with tears of peace. Some began writing without knowing why. Their words filled with calm wisdom older than memory. Perhaps these were the descendants of those who once walked its shining streets. Souls reborn to carry the message forward. They began to speak the truth softly but clearly. That the real Atlantis was never lost beneath the ocean. It was submerged within us. Every act of harmony awakens it a little more. Every time one person forgives, creates, or loves, the tide rises. And now the tide is rising fast. Humanity stands between forgetting and awakening again. The oceans grow warmer, the winds louder. The earth reminding us that balance must return. Yet within that turbulence lies the same opportunity Atlantis once held. To rebuild not with stone and metal, but with awareness. The new temples are not towers of crystal. They are hearts filled with compassion. The new power source is not the Oralise, but consciousness itself. The energy of peace multiplied by billions of minds remembering they are one. Some say Atlantis will one day rise physically. Perhaps, but maybe it already has, in the way we connect, in the way we seek truth beyond the visible, in the way the human spirit refuses to stop evolving. Every lighthouse on every shore is a symbol of that return, a small tower of light guiding the lost safely home. Every act of kindness is a fragment of the old song sung again. Every person who sits by the sea and feels infinite is standing in the memory of Atlantis. So listen closely now. The waves you hear tonight carry the same pulse that began this story. It moves through the water, through the air, through your body. It asks for nothing but awareness. It reminds you that history is not behind us. It flows through us. When you breathe slowly, you join that flow. When you sleep, your dreams return to the deep archives of the ocean, to the place where all memories rest together in light. Atlantis is not a myth of pride or punishment. It is the dream of what humanity can become again and again, whenever it remembers its own divinity. The dream continues now, in you, in every listener, in the gentle hum beneath the world. Let the sound of the sea carry you deeper. Let your thoughts drift like lanterns across calm water. The new age is not coming. It has already begun, and you are part of its dawn. Sleep in the rhythm of the tides. Feel the light of Atlantis glowing quietly within your chest. The ocean remembers your name. It always has. And in the hush before morning, when the first rays touch the water's skin, the world will breathe with you. One pulse, one dream, one rising light. The eternal return. There are no true endings in the language of the sea, only tides that rise and fall, waves that carry one story away and bring another to shore. Atlantis was never meant to be a tragedy. It was a rhythm, a lesson in the dance of light and depth. And though its towers sank beneath the waves, its essence became the ocean's song, a song that has never stopped playing. Listen long enough, and you can hear it beneath everything, in the slow crash of the surf, in the quiet between breaths, in the heartbeat of the earth itself. It is not the sound of loss, but of return. In the stillness that followed the fall, the ocean dreamed. It dreamed of the city's laughter echoing through halls of crystal, of children playing beside glowing fountains, of music that shimmered like sunlight through water. It dreamed of the wisdom that once flowed freely, the knowing that every drop of water, every spark of light, was part of one great living whole. And as the ocean dreamed, the dream began to travel, through the currents, through time, through memory, until one day it reached the shore of now. You listening here are standing on that shore. Every breath you take carries the ancient rhythm of the sea. Every thought, every emotion is a ripple on that same eternal surface. The Atlanteans once believed that time was a spiral, not a straight line, but a curve that always returns to its beginning. The spiral meant rebirth, renewal, remembrance. And so, even as their city fell, they knew the spiral would turn again. The light would return. And when it did, it would awaken not a city, but a world. That time is now. You can see it in the small things, in how humanity seeks connection again, how we look for meaning beyond wealth or war. You can feel it in how the young dream of peace rather than conquest, in how art and science, once divided, are beginning to speak the same language once more. These are not coincidences. They are the pulse of the spiral. They are Atlantis remembering itself through you. Far beneath the waves, the ruins still glow faintly. Each current that brushes against them carries a spark of memory upward. Sometimes, those sparks reach the surface. A flash of light under the full moon. A sound caught in the wind. A thought that enters your mind when you stare too long at the horizon. That is how Atlantis speaks now. Not in thunder, not in visions of grandeur, but in whispers. Soft reminders that you are part of something vast and ancient and alive. The more you listen, the clearer it becomes. The ocean does not separate, it unites. It connects every shore, every creature, every breath. It is the mirror of eternity, reflecting the same light in a million forms. The Atlanteans once said, "To know the ocean is to know yourself." For the ocean holds everything, joy and sorrow, creation and loss. And still it remains whole. That was their greatest truth. And perhaps that is what they wanted us to remember most. So when you feel lost, when the noise of the world drowns your inner voice, return to the rhythm of the tide. Close your eyes. Breathe slowly. Feel the waves moving through you, washing away what is no longer needed, leaving only stillness. That stillness is Atlantis. It is the state of perfect balance, the place where thought and heart become one. Imagine now that you are standing on the ocean floor. The water around you is clear and soft, filled with slow dancing light. Before you, the city of Atlantis glows again, not as stone and metal, but as pure energy. You see its towers rising like rays of dawn. You hear its song, gentle and endless. You realize it was never lost. It was simply waiting for you to remember. As you walk through the luminous streets, you feel no fear, no need to hold on. The air itself feels alive. It breathes with you, moves with you. And in that unity, you understand the oldest truth, that everything returns. Every life, every love, every civilization, all part of one eternal heartbeat. Atlantis was one verse in the song. You are another. Together, they form the melody of existence. When you wake from this dream, when morning light touches your face, remember this. Atlantis is not beneath the ocean. It is within you, in the kindness you give, in the peace you create, in the beauty you choose to see. Each time you live in harmony with the world, you bring a piece of the city back into being. You make the legend real again. And maybe, somewhere deep below, the sleeping towers feel it too, the pulse of their light growing brighter, as humanity begins to hum the same song once more. Now the waves grow softer, the world grows still. The story returns to the sea that carried it. The circle closes, only to open again. Let the rhythm guide your breath. Let the sound of the ocean hold you. You have traveled through ages, through memory, through dream. You have walked the streets of Atlantis. You have heard the song of the deep. And now, you return, not as a visitor, but as part of it. The ocean remembers your journey. It welcomes you home. Sleep now, traveler of time. The stars above are reflections of the lights below. The sea and sky are one again. And in that unity, the dream continues forever. Atlantis is awake, and so are you. The rebirth above. The sea no longer sleeps. Its pulse moves quietly through every current, every cloud, every drop of rain that falls upon the earth. And as the tides rise and breathe beneath the moon, something unseen begins to awaken in the world above. It is not a sound or a sign, but a feeling, faint at first, then growing like dawn spreading through the sky. Atlantis stirs again, not beneath the water, but within the hearts of humankind. It begins gently, a whisper in the background of life. A teacher looks out her window and notices how sunlight dances through the glass, forming patterns that spiral and shimmer, the same geometry once carved into the stones of the lost city. She cannot explain the peace that settles over her, but she feels it, a quiet certainty that life itself is intelligent, that everything around her is breathing the same rhythm. On the other side of the world, a child dreams of towers made of light. He tells his mother that people there speak without words, their thoughts glowing like ripples through water. She smiles, calls it imagination. But in the depths of that child's soul, an ancient memory stirs, the echo of a world where harmony was law. An engineer in a busy city sketches plans for a new system that will clean rivers using sound and vibration instead of chemicals. The pattern he designs mirrors the same energy grids once used in Atlantis. Circles within circles, each tuned to the frequency of balance. He does not know where the idea came from. It simply appeared in his mind one morning like a memory returning from another life. This is how Atlantis returns, not as stone, but as thought, not as ruin, but as remembrance. Its light travels through intuition, through creativity, through the silent bridge between the seen and unseen. Across the planet, more people begin to feel it. Artists paint oceans that seem alive, their colors pulsing softly like the deep sea. Musicians compose melodies that sound strangely familiar, echoing the rhythm of tides. Healers discover that water responds to words, to love, to intention, exactly as the Atlanteans once taught. The modern world does not yet understand. But the energy does not wait for understanding. It simply continues to rise. There was a time when Atlantis lived in perfect balance, technology and spirit intertwined. They built not to conquer nature, but to harmonize with it. Their power came from alignment, not control. And as humanity begins to awaken once more, that same wisdom starts to bloom again. Scientists now speak of quantum fields, of energy that connects everything. Philosophers write about unity consciousness, about the illusion of separation. Even the language of the world begins to shift. Words like vibration, resonance, and frequency move from myth to science. Atlantis smiles through the waves, knowing its message has survived. The oceans, too, begin to heal. In coral reefs once thought dead, tiny bursts of color return. Fishermen notice dolphins swimming closer to the shore, unafraid. The great whales sing longer songs, their tones deeper, richer, as though they, too, are celebrating the return of balance. And in the deep, where the light of the sun never reaches, an ancient pulse moves through the sand. The sleeping crystals of Atlantis vibrate once more. They release threads of energy that travel through the tectonic plates, into the mountains, through rivers, through the roots of forests. The earth begins to hum. No one hears it with their ears, but every heart that is quiet enough can feel it. The hum says, "Remember who you are." Humans begin to slow down. For the first time in centuries, silence is no longer feared. People meditate, breathe, walk barefoot again. They look at the stars not for conquest, but for connection. They begin to listen to the earth, not as masters, but as children returning home. In that listening, old memories surface. The sound of waves becomes familiar, comforting, as if calling them back to a forgotten language. When they dream, they see symbols they do not recognize but somehow understand: spirals, eyes, water wheels of light. They are remembering the language of Atlantis. Every generation holds fragments of it. Every heart that seeks peace holds a spark of that same flame. And now, as the world trembles between chaos and awakening, those sparks are finding one another again. In cities, people gather to heal the land. They plant trees not as projects, but as prayers. They build gardens on rooftops, letting green life climb between towers of glass. And as they work, something remarkable happens. The light of Atlantis rises through them, quiet but unstoppable. You can see it in their eyes, that gentle glow that appears when someone remembers their purpose. You can hear it in their voices, the calm that comes when fear dissolves. You can feel it in their actions, every kindness, every act of creation, every step toward unity. Each one is a note in the song returning to the surface. Atlantis does not need to be rebuilt. It needs to be relived. For it was never truly lost, only forgotten. And now, with every act of love, every spark of understanding, every moment of peace shared between souls, its energy becomes visible again. The Atlanteans believed that the heart of the earth was a crystal, vast, radiant, breathing with the pulse of life itself. They called it the heart of all waters. They said that when humanity forgot its connection to the ocean, the crystal dimmed. But when love returned, the crystal would awaken again, shining through every living being. That time is now. The more the world heals, the brighter that crystal glows. Auroras ripple stronger across the sky, weaving ribbons of green and violet. Lightning moves in new patterns, like veins of energy across the planet. And somewhere deep within the sea, the ruins of Atlantis hum softly, harmonizing with the Earth's heartbeat. The ancient frequencies that once powered their world begin to resonate again, not through machines, but through minds. Through every person who chooses compassion over anger, creation over destruction, peace over fear. Each one becomes a living channel for the energy that once built the impossible. Atlantis was never about technology. It was about consciousness, and consciousness cannot drown. The new Atlantis rises not from the ocean, but from within humanity's soul. It is not a city of marble and gold, but of empathy and awareness. It does not need temples, for the temples are now built in hearts. Every act of kindness, every moment of gratitude, every time one person helps another, the vibration of Atlantis returns. Stronger, clearer, purer. The Atlantean spirit has finally found its reflection above the waves. It no longer hides beneath myth or history. It breathes again through us. And perhaps, one quiet evening, when you walk by the sea and feel the wind against your skin, you'll sense it, that faint hum beneath the surface. You'll hear the echo of a forgotten world that never truly ended. The water will sparkle with golden light. And for a moment, you'll feel the veil between past and present fade away. You'll remember not as a dreamer, but as one who once lived there. You'll remember that Atlantis was not a story at all. It was a promise that light and wisdom can never truly be lost. They only wait for us to be ready again. And now, after so many ages of silence, the world above is finally ready. The rebirth has begun. Atlantis lives, not beneath the sea, but in the rhythm of every beating heart. The return to light. There comes a moment in every story when silence becomes the final word. Not because nothing remains to be said, but because everything has been understood. The waves move softly now, their edges catching the moonlight like silver breath. The ocean that once held secrets now holds peace. It has remembered what it always knew, that every beginning, every end, is one continuous motion of light returning to itself. Far beneath the calm surface, the ruins of Atlantis lie still, not broken, but resting. The towers that once reached toward the sun now sleep under layers of coral and time. And yet, within their ancient stones, a soft glow remains, a whisper of energy, a pulse that matches the rhythm of your own heart. If you listen closely, you can feel it, the quiet communication between the sea and your soul. It says, "We never truly fell. We only changed form." Atlantis became the ocean became the world, and the world became you. Now humanity stands in the light once more. Not the blinding light of power, but the gentle light of awareness. It shines through eyes that have learned to see beauty again. through hands that build with care instead of conquest, through minds that seek harmony instead of control. This is the true return, not of stone, but of spirit, not of cities, but of consciousness. The Atlantean dream lives again, woven into every act of kindness, every breath of gratitude, every moment when someone looks at another and sees not a stranger, but a reflection. Above, the night sky ripples with stars, not cold fires in the distance, but living echoes of the same light within you. The ancients once believed that each soul was a star, a spark that fell to earth to learn, to grow, to remember. And when its journey was complete, it would return to the heavens carrying everything it had learned. So when you gaze upward tonight, know that you're looking into the mirror of your own beginning. The same energy that once flowed through Atlantis now moves through galaxies, through stardust, through thought, all of it connected, all of it remembering itself through you. The ocean sings softly now. It no longer calls for discovery. It only invites you to rest, to close your eyes and feel the rhythm that beats beneath everything. The same rhythm that moved through the great city, through the crystal halls and golden temples, through the hearts of those who understood that peace was not something to seek, but something to remember. Breathe slowly, in and out. Each breath draws you deeper into that same ancient stillness. You are standing at the edge of time, and the waves are washing over your feet. With every tide, a layer of the world's noise fades away. With every wave, you remember what you truly are. Not separate, not lost, but one with everything that ever was. Atlantis does not rise again because it never sank. It transformed. It became the ocean that cradles the earth. It became the wind that carries voices across the world. It became you, the listener, the dreamer, the seeker of light. And as you listen now, you can feel it awakening through your breath, through your heartbeat, through the silence between words. This is not history. This is remembrance. The world you long for has never been gone. It has always been within you, waiting for you to be still enough to see it. Imagine, for a moment, that the world is glowing. Cities breathe softly in the night. Mountains shimmer under the stars. The sea glows faintly with phosphorescent light, each wave a heartbeat of the planet. From above, Earth looks like a single living jewel, the last crystal of Atlantis floating through the dark. And as it turns, it shines. That light reaches beyond the stars, beyond space and time, calling to every soul that once walked beside the ocean. The call is simple and eternal. Come home. You are home, not in a place, but in a state of being. Home is the breath you take right now. Home is the peace that surrounds you. Home is the light that never left. The story of Atlantis ends not with loss, but with return, a return to balance, to wonder, to unity. The ocean remembers. The earth remembers. And now, you remember too. So let the waves carry you now. Let the light fill every corner of your mind. You have traveled through time, through history, through dream. You have seen the fall, the awakening, the rebirth. Now, all that remains is peace. The sea hums softly beneath the stars. The world sleeps in the arms of its own memory. And you, the child of water and starlight, rest in the heart of it all. Atlantis breathes through you. Its story is complete. Its dream continues. In every ocean wave, in every pulse of the earth, in every heartbeat that chooses love, the light returns. The sea is calm. The circle is whole. Sleep now, traveler. The lost world is no longer lost. It has found its way home. In you. The awakening of the silent ones. Humanity has reached that edge again. Not of destruction, but of becoming. The world grows quiet not because it is dying, but because it is listening. Beneath the noise of cities, beneath the hum of machines, a softer pulse begins to rise. The rhythm of a consciousness once forgotten. The same pulse that beat beneath the crystal domes of Atlantis, that shimmered in the temples of the sun and moon, that whispered in the waters before memory began. It is rising again, in us. Across the planet, the awakening moves like light through mist. People who have never met begin to dream the same dreams. Of towers of blue glass, of oceans that breathe, of voices that hum in a language without words. They wake with tears on their cheeks and no explanation. They only know something vast is calling them home. It starts quietly, in meditation halls, in forests, in the stillness before dawn. A subtle vibration begins to thread through awareness. So delicate, it could be mistaken for silence. But those who pause, those who listen, feel it. A harmony that doesn't come from the earth alone. It is the song of balance, the one Atlantis once guarded. It hums now within every heart that is ready. The silent ones have waited lifetimes for this moment. They are the keepers of remembrance, souls who lived and fell with Atlantis, returning again and again through time, until humanity was ready to rise with them. They were not kings or prophets. They were listeners, those who understood that wisdom is not found in noise, but in resonance. Now they walk again, unnoticed, but everywhere. A poet writing words that sound like waves. A scientist sensing consciousness inside light. A child asking, why does the ocean feel alive? Each is a spark of Atlantis, reborn in a different form. As the frequency of the world shifts, the air itself feels different, lighter, alive, aware. Skies glow faintly with colors unseen. Dreams grow more vivid. The line between thought and creation begins to blur. What you imagine begins to breathe. What you love begins to form. The old world of matter starts to melt into one of vibration. It is not the end of science. It is its fulfillment. The Atlanteans once said, the more you understand the universe, the more it understands you. Now, humanity begins to feel that truth again. In the deep ocean, machines record strange sounds, tones that repeat every 9 hours, spreading across the globe like a heartbeat. Some say it is tectonic movement. Others say it is whale song. But the silent ones know better. It is the earth remembering her own voice. It is Atlantis speaking through the planet's core. The sea does not forget her children. And now, her children are learning to hear her again. In the high mountains, monks describe visions of luminous cities rising beyond the horizon. In their dreams, beings of light walk through air that shimmers like water. They speak not of salvation, but of remembrance, that every human being carries within them the same oceanic spark that once powered the crystal hearts of Atlantis. The monks say, the kingdom you seek lies beneath your own ribs. And across the world, those words ripple like waves. The silent ones teach without speaking. They guide through presence, not preaching. Their message is simple. Return to harmony, not to escape the world, but to heal it. For Atlantis does not return through temples or towers. It returns through compassion, through unity, through the awareness that all things are alive. The wind is aware. The stone remembers. The light responds. And when humanity listens, the universe sings back. One night, under a sky heavy with stars, a child looks up and asks her mother, do you think the stars remember us? The mother smiles softly and whispers, yes, because we are what they became. The stars are not distant. They are the reflections of what we once were and what we are becoming again. Atlantis was not destroyed. It was transformed. And now, through us, it begins to rise in every act of kindness, every quiet thought of peace, every dream that carries light instead of fear. As the world drifts into a gentler rhythm, those who listen at night begin to hear it, a soft resonance behind every sound. It is the hum of the universe itself, the song of everything becoming whole again. The silent ones stand at the edge of dawn, watching the light spread across the oceans. For them, this is not the end of a story. It is the remembering of one that never truly ended. The sea breathes, the stars shimmer, the world awakens. And in that quiet moment before sunrise, Atlantis smiles, not from beneath the waves, but from within every heart that dares to remember. The last light of Atlantis, the ending. The night drifts toward its quietest hour. The ocean is still. The stars no longer shimmer in the distance. They seem closer now, as if the sky itself has lowered to listen. The story of Atlantis was never about a city. It was about us, about the endless rise and fall of light within every heart, the forgetting and remembering that shapes the rhythm of existence. For ages, we searched the sea, chasing ruins, maps, and legends. We thought Atlantis was something to be found, but it was something to become. Every breath you take now carries its memory of temples beneath the waves, of voices that once spoke in harmony with the stars, of a wisdom too deep to ever be destroyed. Atlantis did not sink. It simply folded itself into time, waiting for the moment when humanity could hear again. And that moment is now. Listen, do you hear it? That soft hum beneath the silence? That is the heartbeat of the ancient world, rising again through you. You are part of the same current that once flowed through their hands. The builders, the dreamers, the keepers of the light. You carry their memory in your eyes, their courage in your pulse, their hope in your breath. The city beneath the waves lives on in the city of your soul. The silent ones walk beside you, unseen but present. They smile when you show kindness. They whisper through intuition, guiding you back toward balance. Every act of love rebuilds a wall of Atlantis. Every word of truth restores a crystal tower. Every peaceful thought lifts the city higher. Until, one day, the whole world will glow again, as it once did, a living temple of light. Now the tide is turning. The stars begin to fade. The ocean breathes slowly, and so do you. Let the memory drift through you like a soft current. Let it settle in your heart, not as a story to remember, but as a truth to live. You were never separate from Atlantis. You were always part of its return. The waves fold into silence. The sky becomes pale with the first light of dawn. Somewhere deep below, the last light of the lost city glimmers once, then merges with the sea. It is not goodbye. It is a promise that what was once forgotten has now been awakened, not beneath the water, but within you. The age of remembering has begun. The end.